Good afternoon, parents, and a warm Happy New Year to you all, wherever you are in the world. Welcome again to the first parent information session of the new year of 2022. And we've kept the timings at 12 p.m. like the previous series. And as always, these sessions are recorded for parents so that you can revisit them, of course, if you're currently watching, but also go onto our YouTube channel and download it and watch at your leisure if you're not able to join us today or in the future sessions. So we had lots of feedback from the previous webinar series from parents, and I appreciate that. We appreciate your feedback and for all of your support that you continue to give us as we try to provide the information that you need to support your children at Jim's Founder School. So like I said, these sessions are recorded for that purpose as well, so that you can watch in your own time or revisit them as well. Obviously, we had an XLT webinar last week to announce the plans for this week, followed by the letter that Mr. John and I sent out to our school community. Obviously, a very difficult decision in terms of having to continue online and work remotely. For this week, we are definitely on a day-to-day basis just making sure that all of our students at home are supported to the very best of our abilities. And obviously we rely so much on you as parents to support our children and your children, of course, as much as possible. So we cannot thank you enough for the support that you're giving us currently, and hopefully these webinars will add a little bit of substance to what we're trying to do, and a bit of perspective and a bit more context, again, to help you as parents. So the next slide, please, Miss Miley. We always start them off with our vision and our pillars, and try to link all things back as well to our mission statement as well. But we are living in very challenging times. We've heard this so many times before, but we as a school are trying to do everything we possibly can to succeed with our vision of Grow, Flourish and Succeed, and to make sure that we try to see the world through our students' eyes and through our parents' eyes as much as we possibly can. And stay connected as a community. We are a very, very big community right now, but we, like I said, are really trying to connect and to adapt and to change the way we do things, especially as we're working remotely, but also trying to think about when we do eventually return once again face to face, the effect that these times are having on students, on parents, on teachers, on human beings. So we always must focus on this and never lose sight of what we're actually trying to do here. And like I say, it's about our community. It's not just about students, it's about you as parents and our teachers and our staff and all of the people that are involved in this very complex world and situation that we live in right now. So once again, I thank you so much for everything that you're currently doing for our children and for your families as well, and for us as a community. These three things are very important. I think particularly the top one and the bottom one, more so than ever. The middle one is obviously incredibly important as well, but in terms of thinking about mindfulness and about staying in the present as much as we possibly can, we have to do that right now, and it's very hard to do that right now because we're unsure of what the future brings or will bring, whether that's tomorrow or this afternoon or 2 years from now. We have to try to help each other stay in the present and focus on what we can control. And obviously the last 2 years that have gone by have been incredibly challenging. So we often do reflect on that, and our past does change the way we think and alter the way we think. But as a school that tries to use the concept of mindfulness within our three pillars, I wanted you to think about that for a little while and think about that through this session, And of course, at any stage, if you want to post a comment or a question in the question and answers box, please do so, so that we can help you understand what we're doing and why we're doing things. And that bottom one again, character, I've spoken about this a few times, and that resilience and that determination. Again, not just from students, obviously students are the most important people in any school, but it's for us as adults and staff and parents to make sure that we show the character to support our students, your sons and daughters, through a time where it's been very, very challenging. So if we just move on to the next slide, please, Miss Marlene. I'll just, before I start this session about expectations, just make sure that everybody is aware of the future series. This will go up until the end of this first half of term 2, and we will continue this all the way through to the end of the academic year. Obviously, we're doing these sessions on Mondays now, and we will continue to do that for our parents. But the next 5 sessions, including today, of course, are designed to help all parents. Some sessions will be more relevant to certain groups of parents than others, particularly next week, where whilst the target audience is going to be Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 parents, Key Stage 3 parents, so parents in years 7, 8 and 9, I think that session will certainly help you understand what is coming as students enter year 10 and 11, 12 and 13, but very, very specifically will address how we approach international GCSEs and A-levels and the examinations that students have to take as part of those courses of study. We then will, on the 24th of January, invite students, some of our student leaders, to present to you and with myself about revision and home learning strategies. Very, very important, obviously, and as you know, we're a school that doesn't implement homework, but we do certainly want to help students and parents understand further what we mean by home learning and how best to revise and support and to build upon the work that they do in schools every day. So that session will be designed around that, like I said, with student leadership, giving their perspectives and their thoughts and their advice. Then a really exciting session on the 31st of January, where we will update all of our parents about the plans that we have for our curriculum next year and beyond. Some very, very exciting developments that we've been working on for many years now, actually. And I'll be able to give you a glimpse of what the future curriculum plans will look like and will entail. And obviously with all of the new resources and the new building that we have this academic year, we have some exciting opportunities to share with you. And then as we lead up to Progress Check 2, lots of questions about how to interpret your child report. So I will be joined by another member of the leadership team on helping you understand that and how this all fits into the bigger picture, so that you can obviously talk with your children about their grades, about their learning skills, and about what is going on in their school lives, so that will help hopefully a little bit further. So that's the secondary school live webinar series, but this one today we'll talk about the expectations, and again trying to contextualize and put into perspective expectations that we have, that you have as parents, that students have for themselves, but also in the bigger picture of the world that we live in currently. Next slide, please. So I wanted to start off by thinking about the fundamentals when we talk about expectations. And well-being has never been as important as it is today, especially for our students. And I think when we talk about expectations, we have got to realize and understand and appreciate the challenges that students face in the current day. And we always have high expectations of our children, as parents, as teachers, as leaders. And I think we always have to have in the back of our mind never to drop those expectations but to also think about what students are going through at the same time and the challenges, like I said, that they're facing. So we have lots of mechanisms for support for students at the school. And if we look at that bottom bullet point, this is about getting to know people. Because when we think about expectations, we have got to talk about different people at different levels within the school. Now, I meet with a group of students every week. I think most parents know that, that are randomly selected and ask them a series of questions and talk to them about what's going well and what we can improve and what they want to see done better at James Founder School. And one thing that I always hear in those groups, in those focus groups, or what I learn, sorry, from these focus groups, is that perhaps our students are not always familiar with the people in the school, whether that's just getting to know their teachers a bit more, getting to know their teachers' names even, getting to know some of the key people that are very important to them, such as the head of year or the assistant head teacher, or whether it's a senior leader, or whether it's the school counsellor or the school doctor, the receptionist. It could be anybody in the school. And I think when we talk about expectations, we are really trying to instill in our students that no matter who the adult is in school, we have got to make sure that they respect those individuals the same. And this goes back to values and about our beliefs. And we try to do a lot of work, and I certainly try to invite a lot of different people to those sessions, whether it is bus drivers or the doctor, or whether it is our security staff or our operations team or the front of house team. I've tried to help students understand that when they get on that bus in the morning, or they arrive at school, when we're back face to face, and they walk through the reception or walk past a member of staff or a colleague of ours, to say good morning, to talk to people and get to know people, because I think that is the foundation of good expectations. So I really would like to your support with that as parents, just to make sure that we always talk to our children. You talk to your sons and daughters, and we will talk to them as students, just about making sure they know who people are. They know the key people in their year groups, in their classes, in their subjects, so that they can talk to people and get advice if things are not going so well, or they need support. So that really sort of sets the scene in terms of attitudes to learning. We talk a lot about that through our high performance learning, about making sure that students come to school with the right mindset. We always talk about the difference between students and human beings who have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And again, when we're talking about expectations, that growth mindset, that belief that things are possible, having that can-do attitude is so important. Again, that links back to that key pillar, core pillar in our school of character and really strong resilience. So this is really important. This, like I said, sets the scene. It really is the foundations for all that students do in our school, whether they're working at home or whether they're actually coming into school face to face. Next slide, please, Ms. Manning. So we always talk about coming to school wearing the right uniform as one of our expectations. I'm acutely aware that parents have had challenges in getting key items of the uniform. And as a school, we obviously have to make sure that we do challenge students, and we do make sure that they are wearing the correct uniform. But at the same time, understand and respect that parents have had challenges, like I said, in purchasing perhaps one item or two items of our uniform. So it's trying to find that, strike that right balance, and making sure that all students that do have the right uniform and have been able to get all of the key parts of the uniform are wearing it on a day-to-day basis, And for any parents and any students that have not been able to get the items that they need, is to make sure that they are coming to school with the next best thing, the closest fit, whether that's a pair of blue or black trousers, or whether that's just a plain blue tie, instead of the Gems Founder School tie if you're not able to get that. But we just want our community, our students, to make sure they represent our school on a day-to-day basis. And don't forget the uniform, and those expectations don't just stop at the actual dress that we expect students to wear, but it goes on about things like different hairstyles and making sure that the girls have their hair tied back, about jewellery and making sure that students understand what they can and cannot do with respect to wearing jewellery in school. The shoes, please make sure that your child has a pair of black leather shoes. I know that there's thousands of different styles of shoes these days, as you will as parents, but plain black leather shoes, please, for students in the school. Because we have lots of our students who will obviously travel home on the school buses every day, or maybe get their own transportation, and they'll be seen in our community, and we want them to respect that and respect the school they go to, and make sure that they dress accordingly. Next slide, please. So again, just a couple of things there. All of this is in the parents' handbook, which I will be sharing a link to at the end for you to revisit should you need to. But again, some really key things in terms of students, even online right now, as we're working remotely, students should be wearing school uniform. That is an expectation, whether they're in school or at home, because their cameras will be switched on. And it's very, very important that they're dressed accordingly as if they were coming to school. It also helps in the morning when students get up during this remote learning period to keep in their school routines as closely as they can as possible. And part of that routine obviously is dressing accordingly. I just this morning had the very same conversation with my daughter, whose school has also gone online this week. And she found it very hard to understand why she was dressed in school uniform as she started her Zoom calls with her teachers. But it's an important part, and it's an important aspect of the school day. And again, that's about the mindset as well, making sure that you're in a school mindset from Monday to Friday, and that will certainly help with their learning. Next slide, please. Mobile devices. Obviously, the first thing we plan to do in 2022, we communicated with parents and students and our colleagues before the winter break that we were going to have a digital detox week. We still are going to have a digital detox week, but we hoped and wished it could be the first week back, because we all were acutely aware that students and everyone really around the world would have spent 3 weeks connecting online with families and friends around the world over the winter season, the holiday season, but also just as part of our day-to-day lives, and especially when students are not in school, perhaps they use technology even more. So that digital detox week will go ahead, but in terms of expectations regarding mobile devices, obviously the world that we live in right now requires students to bring mobile devices to school. So a tablet, and more often than not, students will be bringing in a mobile telephone. But we just want to make sure that from a school's point of view, when students are in school face-to-face learning, whilst they have their technology, their devices with them, there is a time and a place that they're permitted to use them. And we certainly do not want students to be on their mobile phones at all in school time, only at the end of the school day where they need to contact you as parents, or perhaps to connect to one of their family members at the end of the school day for collection purposes, or obviously for any emergency situation that may arise. Hopefully it never does. So I think the key thing here is finding the balance. We need to, as a school, continue to try and find the balance and make sure that we continue to understand and appreciate the effects screen time can have on young people and adults as well, and trying to find that balance for them. So in terms of school use, like I said, mobile telephones should be turned off when students arrive on site, and should be kept in their school bags and only switched on really at the end of the school day, when they need them to contact you or their drivers or the people that are going to collect them. In terms of their use at home, obviously we rely heavily on parents to try their very best to monitor children, your sons and daughters at home, and obviously you will have your expectations of what they can and cannot do in your house and when they are out in society. But obviously trying to work closely with the school to again appreciate really more than anything the downsides of spending too much time on screen, whether that is just the effect it can have on your brain and your eyes and how tired you can become, but also the effect it can have on sleep, and using that device before students go to bed and go to sleep, and making sure that they are not using devices where possible, during that time. And it's something that we all talk about, and it's something that we all probably continue to do occasionally, because technology has become just a fundamental part of all our lives. So please think about this, just reflect really upon the purpose of it. Obviously, this week with remote learning technology is essential. There's no other way around it. We're trying to work with our teachers and make sure that lessons are not just all on screen time for the whole lesson, but giving students the opportunity to turn off their screens, do work at home where possible, the relevant work, and try to strike that balance a little bit. So please support us where possible with that. Thank you. So as a result of using technology now for 2 years during the pandemic, and before that, I think that one of the effects I have seen and my colleagues have seen is the effects on students' handwriting and presentation. So we want to really refocus on that this term, and we obviously look at the students' books. We collect the students' books in on a termly basis, and more frequently than that. But we do have what we call book looks, where we collect books from all classes, across all subjects, across all year groups, and do a quality assurance session in terms of looking at the key things on the screen right now, particularly presentation and handwriting. And whilst a lot of our students have become very familiar with typing on screen, either using their iPads or their laptops or desktops, it is so important that students never lose sight of the importance of writing accurately, neatly, and really caring for what they do in their exercise books. And when you look through books, you can see trends starting to appear. We certainly see it in school. If the student takes his or her book home, you will see it as parents as well. And we really want to work as a team here to make sure that students are presenting their work neatly with pride, whether that is underlining things neatly or just really making sure they're practicing their handwriting skills. Because the reality is that when students do get to the examination years and they've become so familiar with typing on screen, they sometimes struggle when it comes to examinations. And of course, that can be very, very challenging when the examiners are marking exam papers. So we obviously teach presentation, handwriting skills, and all of those things across the key years. But again, like I said, the reality is when our students enter year 10, 11, 12, and 13, If their work is not presented neatly, it could have an effect, a negative effect upon examination results. So please work with us on that. Never lose sight of the extra work students can do at home if their books are maybe not as presented as neatly as they could or should be, to take them home, to tidy them up, and to make sure that they are looking after them. On the front of each of the students' books, as you can see on the screen, there are 3 QR codes, one for Key Stage 3, one for Key Stage 4, and one for Key Stage 5. So just a reminder, Key Stage 3, Years 7, 8 and 9, Key Stage 4, Year 10 and 11, and Key Stage 5, Years 12 and 13. And these QR codes, when you scan them as a student or a parent, they take you to our website and to the curriculum information page and the assessment information page, so that there's quick access should a student or a parent need it. And you can see on the top left-hand corner of the books, we're going to be doing a lot of work in terms of students understanding and reflecting, more importantly perhaps, on where their start points were in terms of assessment, what their working grades are, and what their target grades are as well. Obviously, these pieces of data change as students move through their year and through their school lives. But it's really important. The purpose of this is to make sure that the expectation from the school side is that children go home and talk to their parents about how they're doing in school and really take responsibility for understanding where they're at and what they need to do to improve. We place a huge emphasis on this in secondary school, about students knowing what they need to do better, what they can do better to improve, and more importantly, how and why they need to do that. So this is really important. Parents, please talk to your children about this. You've all received the Progress Check 1 reports before the winter break. If you haven't already, download them from GEMS Connect. Go through the report card. If you have questions, ask the teachers, ask the leaders, ask myself. We're all here to support, and we will be doing a session on that, like I said at the start, to help parents understand even further how to interpret those school reports. So the expectations about presentation, handwriting, and knowing what those 3 QR codes are and linked to is very important. Next slide, please. So again, just following on from that QR code will link to a web page just like this on our school website. In this case, it's the Key Stage 3. Again, very important that students know who their leaders are and where to access the information. Next slide, please. So you'll see how that is laid out. Again, the reference point here is Key Stage 3, but it does obviously link to Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 with those QR codes. It will give you information about the curriculum maps and the course structure. And I think most importantly, at the very bottom, that expectation that when you click on the assessment button at the bottom, or the assessment tab, sorry, it will explain in detail what constitutes to an S1 or an S2 or any grade across the school. And that's really important. And it is an expectation that students are aware of the skills, the knowledge, the understanding for each of the grades that they get, and be able to articulate that, more importantly. So please spend some time looking at this page, whether that's through the QR code or going straight to our website to the curriculum drop-down menu, and then selecting the relevant year group for your child or children. Next slide, please. Last but not least, and then I'll certainly look through the questions and try to answer as many questions as possible that have been posted, and thank you to the parents that have posted them. The parent handbook can be found on at this link. You would have all received that as a parent when you join the school. It has been updated obviously this year, and it does have all of the expectations laid out in there, right the way from behaviour, from uniform, from everything that we try to do at the school. But I wanted to sort of go back to the start of the session and just really re-emphasize and make sure that everybody understands in our community that we do have high expectations. We do work towards making sure students have the same high expectations, but at the same time, like I said, in the current context, just be understanding and being understanding, and understanding really what students are going through right now. So finding that balance is absolutely critical. I've got some questions in the chat, so if you just give me a few seconds whilst I read through them, I may be able to answer some that will apply to all parents, and if not, I certainly will respond if they are just private messages. So one parent has asked about adding the links to all previous webinars. They will be on our YouTube channel. If you can't find them, we will create a document, I think would be the best thing, with the links to those previous sessions, which might help, rather than you going onto the YouTube channel directly to find them. But we can certainly have links, and perhaps on a one-page document that might be useful for you and other parents. So thank you for that question. There are a few questions that have come in about next week's plans. So obviously we had the webinar last week where Mr. Matthew, myself, Mr. John, and Ms. Jan tried to outline the plans for this week. Next week, at this stage, we are still waiting on lots of different pieces of information before we can release the plans for next week. Obviously, it is our intention, like was stated in the letter, to return to school face to face. And obviously, that decision will be made this week in consultation with the KHDA, and making sure that if we are to open on the 17th, which we actually all hope to do so, I know all schools around the world, but particularly in this region, desperately want to get students in face to face. But obviously we need to make sure that we have the information, the data, and that it's most importantly safe for us to return next week. So whilst I can't answer that question directly, the current plan is to return face to face. But obviously in terms of if things change, we will keep you updated. Okay. The teacher-parent meetings will be shared absolutely with all parents for this upcoming academic term, and you will be invited as parents online, because we think that this is the best way to do it, not just during COVID, but I think beyond. It's a lot more efficient to do that with us. So the heads of year will be in touch to outline when those parent-teacher meetings are, to discuss the grades. I think the other questions that have been posted are private messages, and I will respond to them individually, so thank you for posting those. I hope this session, as always, has been useful. Again, reach out please to the relevant school leaders, to the class teachers, to the tutors. I know our tutors are going to be working very closely in smaller groups this week with students to try and check in on them on a very small group level, which I think is important. But as parents, please reach out to your child's class teacher or subject teachers or one of the leadership team if we can support and emphasize anything, or explain, sorry, anything in more detail that you may wish for. Thank you for the final comment in the chat, thanking us for this webinar and the efforts that the school are putting in. And it's not just about what the school are doing, it's about what you are doing as parents. Again, as a parent myself, I completely understand the situation and the challenges it has presented, not just to working parents, but to non-working parents as well, for all parents. It's very, very complex, this, to make sure that we, as adults, support these young children and teenagers and young adults the very, very best we can. So please remember that expectations, really keep them high this week and for the rest of the academic year, but understand that balance, critical element of balance, and the critical aspect of making sure that we really understand what our children are going through at this very, very difficult time. Thank you all very much for your participation today. I certainly look forward to seeing you next week. And once again, please keep in touch and absolutely keeping close contact with us as much as you possibly can. There's one more question, sorry, that has come in, which I must address, and that is about school trips. We've got a lot of school trips planned for this term, and again, Mr. Jack Perrett and the leaders that are organising our school trips will be putting out communication to all parents, with not just reference to the Sandy Beach trip, but to all trips for the academic year. Again, we have to almost take this on a week-to-week basis as to what we can and cannot do. Currently, in the first 2 weeks of school, obviously all the trips were cancelled, and we're constantly working with the trip providers to make sure that we are providing these trips where and when possible, and obviously, again, once again, taking into consideration all of the safety aspects, whether that is going to Expo, to Sandy Beach, or wherever that may be. So Mr. Jack Perrett will be sending out communication to parents who have signed up for these trips, explaining the situation. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you.